Hey everybody, Mr. Steve back. I'm going to show you guys how to make this very easy and simple effect on basically any mesh object you want. Just going to take a few shader nodes, a little bit of know-how to understand the process, and then you can easily transfer this to any other project you want. You can even modify it. It's got a lot of potential, and let's go check it out. All right, guys, so number one thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna delete the default cube and then throw that bad boy back in. So GZ1, and I've just got a plane in here. For this, I do want to have a shader editor open and a geometry nodes and a timeline. You'll need all three of these. So go ahead and click new here. And what we're gonna need is a node called geometry. If you're not familiar with this one, it's actually a really powerful node. It's got a lot of different options on it, but today we're going to be using the random per island. And we're going to need to connect this to the strength or the emission on the principal BSDF. And personal side note here, this is only going to work in cycles. So you want to go over to cycles, make sure you're on GPU compute so you can see what's going on. So now we're going to need to throw a little bit of math in here, and this is partially what default cube did. So what he did is he typed in for math, and we added the value, which is random per island here, and just got to get a little bit of a look at what's going on. If we select all the way down to random, you don't actually see anything yet. But if we go here, you'll see that we go from 0 to 1, which is white or black, depending on the numbers. So what we actually want to do is catch what's in the middle of the 0 to 1 and kind of constrain it. And we know that this, if this is going to be our control, which it is, for randomization, we're going to put in a hashtag frame for this and tie it into the timeline. We're going to definitely exceed the 0 to 1 ratio here because we're going to be using frame count, like whatever frame you have. So the fix for that is Shift D. Let's throw in a fraction. It's going to grab the point decimal to the right, and it's going to constrain that for us so we never get whole values. Now, the next thing you can do is dump in a math, and what we want to do is put this to greater than, and this is going to give us a sharp look to the actual UV islands that we're going to be producing. In case you don't know, we'll just throw in a monkey real quick. Let's check this out. If I jump into edit with that, and we look in the UV editor, you'll see each one of these UV islands. Here is obviously selectable, but this is going to be taking each individual face that isn't coplanar and turning it into a UV island. And the way we're going to be doing that is through geometry nodes, and we're going to use a split edge. So let's get this screen back up so you guys can see. I'll be putting in split edges here, and just so you can see it, I want to put in a scale elements. Scale elements will be a controlled value we can use to kind of show you what's actually happening behind the scenes. It's going to split these edges. You can leave the value to 1. It has no bearing on it. Now let's go back over to the shader editor here now that we've got our math set up. Jump back over into cycles, and what we'll see here, I like putting this at about 0.6, 0.5, anything in between 0 and 1 is good. The further you go to the right, though, or rather towards 1, it'll be all black. The further you go towards 0, it's going to be all white. So somewhere in the middle is going to be good. And then this value will begin to shift this around for us, as we can see here. And it'll give us a nice randomization for the colors. Now, the next step I did was I put in a color ramp, and I just want to take the actual random value here from the per island and put that in the factor. Now I can tie this in to the color for the emission. And what I want to do is just add a couple of extra stops here. We'll just do 4. Then I want to distribute these evenly, so that's just going to look better. Let's grab each individual stop and let's give it an actual color. Take a moment, pick whatever you want, pause the video if you need to. I wouldn't have anything necessarily white, but you can do whatever you want. This looks pretty good. Now if I control spacebar back out, which is just that little trick, what we're going to end up with is a random color on each one of these. And let's see, why is that not working? Oh, because I don't have it tied in. So here we go. So I'm controlling everything here on the add. And now we're going to get these different colors that are going to be produced as this goes. So now let's go ahead and we're basically adding a frame driver to it. So just put a hashtag, type in frame / and not sure why I have caps on today. Type in frame / and something like dividing this by 50. And the lower the number, the faster, the higher the number, the slower it will go. Now this is tied in to the actual frames here in the timeline, and we have this much more automated, which is going to be very useful. Now, I did have another problem here that kind of bugged me. I had this color right here as I was playing. I ended up getting this extra texture of white, and I just didn't want that. So I want this to follow along with the color ramp. So when I tie this in, I end up getting nice solid colors that actually are going to look good. And I would like this just randomized a touch more. But we do have another problem here, and that's that we're only working with a certain number of faces. But because we're in a procedural geometry node setup, well, guess what? We can type in sub D and do a subdivide mesh, not a subsurface. And when we tie this in, now we get a much better distribution of the randomized for faces, and it's just got a lot more to work with. Now, this is pretty cool because you can actually bring this up and highly pixelate that. This is a really cool thing. It looks a little Minecraft-y, kind of static-y to me. I really like that a lot. It doesn't seem to slow down my PC at all. And of course, you can change these colors, and for you guys who are absolute genius at shader nodes, you can come in here, and I'm sure you guys are just flooding your brains with extra ideas on how to make this look even better. Now, for me, what I did at this point is I stopped my animation so I could do it. I went into edge select here, just extrude this up, constrain it on Z. Let's grab this and do a nice Control B bevel and just add some segments, something like 30, 40, 50, whatever. Makes this look good. More of an infinite background thing. Saw Blender Guru do this a while back and I never looked back. So now we'll shade that smooth and you really won't know the difference. So you can scale this out on the X, maybe apply that scale. Let's go ahead and see. I don't think I've got a camera. Yeah, I got a camera in the scene. So now what this does is gives me kind of a nice infinite background to look at. And for the viewport itself, we can actually come down here and let's see if I've got the passepartout. And now we can look at just the cube as it is, get a better look, and kind of isolate that in the viewport. Now this will look a little bit nicer for us. Jump back over into cycles and press play. And now we've got a nice little background to work with, and you can render this out. And if you're clicking off of stuff and losing your little workspace, just click the pin right here, and this will pin the workspace. When you click on something else, that will remain. Don't forget to add some sort of a texture to the background here. Maybe make it a little bit metallic so you can have a nice reflection on it when you do your render. And I don't want the geometry nodes to disappear either, so I'll go ahead and do that. And now the emission, we don't have any control over that. So let's go ahead and throw in a multiply. And what this is going to do is this is actually going to increase the emission strength for us. I think I said color, but whatever, strength. So now you've actually got a strength control for this. You can hit F2 and you could say emission strength. And you can name these because things will get really confusing if you don't. Now, as this goes, here's another thought for y'all. Just do a little control space bar here. You've got this controlling the emission, but there's nothing that says you can't have another texture right here. So I'm going to do a gradient. I'll grab the same color ramp. I'm just going to throw that in. I'll throw a mapping node in. And then COR gets me, whoops, no, that's not what I wanted. COR should get me my texture coordinate. And then I'm just going to plug in object, do object projection. And what we'll have is a texture now. And we're still projecting over the top of that with our different color animation. All right, so I did a little bit of housekeeping here. You guys are really going to like this next trick. This is good stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw an array modifier on here. I'll go ahead and duplicate that. I'm on the X here. I want to put this to 1.2. To spread that out just a touch, and I can close it. Now I want the X factor here to be 0, and I'll go to the Y and put that to 1.2. Then I can increase this out to like whatever number I want. Something like 6 or something is good. Now then you can go ahead and apply these modifiers. So go ahead and just click apply. And funny, let's see. Yeah, this is I'm in Blender 4.4, just so you guys know. And if you want this free, I remade this because I develop add-ons too. I remade the vintage modifier menu. Everything is the same, only it's got some extra controls, which I'll show you right now. You got the apply all, the viewport visibility, the toggle, the stack, delete all, or you could just individually apply these modifiers right here. So I remade it and made it better. I'll put a link in the comments. You guys can grab that too. So yeah, just make sure to give it a nice 5-star review because it took me like 20 hours of stress to rebuild that old thing. So anyways, let's jump back into cycles and check this out. All right, very good. Now, what I did also that I didn't tell you is that I changed the threshold to 0.5, which indicatingly, I don't even know what that means, that I was hoping it would take this and make them whole. Like one is on, one is off. An entire block will be on, an entire block will be off. And then I didn't separate this by loose parts. It's still one mesh. I've got the emission strength up kind of high so you can kind of see my values. Now I'll just shift left arrow and then hit play. And now we've got this deal, which I think if these were shaped or rather modeled like light bulbs, this would end up looking spectacular. So just wanted to leave you guys with that. Thank you for watching. Thank you for checking out the channel. Make sure to sub up if you want to see more things like this and add-on dev, which I do a lot of. I don't want to make this channel into like advertisements or anything, so I'll leave it there. If you guys feel like following the links, go ahead and do it. See y'all in the next tutorial.